All right, we are back. Rush to Reason, Denver's Afternoon Rush, KLZ 560. Thanks for joining us, by the way. Hour number 3, Jim Pfaff joining us now. Jim, welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How you doing, sir?
Doing good. President of the Conservative Caucus. I guess as we lead up to Tuesday, not too many days left. Yeah, we got, tomorrow, Friday, but for a lot of people, that's sort of the end of the work week. And then, of course, we have the weekend, and then Monday, and then Election Day. So we're not that far away.
No, we're not. And people are voting early like crazy. I think it's encouraging to see this. Republican early votes are way up. Now, you still need a whole bunch of people to show up on Election Day. But the good news about these early votes is that they're banked now. If there are problems on Election Day, they can be counted. So I just encourage people to get their vote in as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've got the ability to do that, get it done now. We're far enough into it where if you want to get that done, please do. Here in Colorado, do not mail your ballot. Take it down to your local drop box, wherever that happens to be. And if it's one that's inside, I would prefer you do that than even finding one of the outside drop boxes. We haven't had any real issues as far as outside boxes go, Jim, but I'm one where if you can go drop that off inside, do so.
It's scary to see what happened up in Oregon and Washington.
Correct.
You definitely don't want that to happen.
Correct. So if you guys are listening, please go do what we said. We would appreciate that very much. And not saying the mail's not trustworthy. There's a lot of folks listening to this program that deliver the mail, so we appreciate each and every one of you as well. But I would just personally feel more comfortable with dropping that off to an inside drop box, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely. So get it in there, and I hope someday we can get rid of mail voting. To be candid, I never liked it when Colorado went that direction. And for those listening who may not know, I've lived in Colorado for most of this century, and very involved in Colorado politics. So that was a real problem. I had a little bit of a concern about early voting, although I ran the marriage amendment in 2006, and we dealt with that, and we were able to win an election in a very blue year and a very red issue. Well, we can do that again this year for Donald Trump, so I'm encouraging everyone to do it.
And that was going to be my next question. As we roll along here, we get closer. I mean, I have a good feeling right now, and I'm not saying it's going to be any kind of a landslide. I know there's folks out there that may predict that, but I feel like there's an edge right now to Donald Trump. What are your thoughts along those lines as to what we can expect from Tuesday's election?
My sense of it is that we could have something of an electoral landslide, if not a vote landslide, and so forth. But I think he could definitely get 311 to 315 electoral votes. Could be wrong about that. There's a whole lot of unknowns when you are going into the final weeks, and in this case, the final week of the election. So there's some things I don't know, but everything looks very good. So, for example, Wisconsin numbers are now consistently, the polls, I should say, are consistently positive for Trump, and the Poly Market thing is predicting it. Michigan has gone back and forth and back and forth. I think he can win it, but that may be questionable. Pennsylvania seems to be rocking for Donald Trump. There's been a big effort to get people registered to vote, and Republican numbers are way up in that state, so that's a possibility. But what's really interesting in these final couple weeks is that New Hampshire and Virginia seem to be in play. And I will say this, and we just, our organization, we just bought a bunch of television in New Hampshire to try to help boost that up a little bit. And it's probably, there isn't a lot of Trump money in there, so independent expenditure committees like ours I can possibly make a difference. But if you see New York be relatively close, like within 10 points or less, if you see New Hampshire fall for Trump, you see Virginia fall for Trump, and then these other states, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Michigan and Wisconsin are going for Trump, then suddenly you just may have a wave hit, because you still are going to have polls open in the mountain states and on the West Coast, and that puts Nevada and Arizona, which are on Pacific time, in play. And then obviously
I just did really quick. I went to 270 to win and did your map, leaving Michigan blue, Wisconsin red, Pennsylvania red. I did New Hampshire red. I left everything else the way it would be, normally blue. I did take Nevada and Arizona, made them red, and it's 314 to 224 if you go that route.
Yeah, and that's I don't know to be precise in that scenario, but something like that can very well happen. By the way, New Hampshire goes, that may mean that one more Democrat district in Maine could go for Trump. That's
True.
a possibility. There have been Republican governors
True.
that have been elected there in recent years. So then suddenly you just see things falling apart. Because keep in mind, Arizona and Nevada are both on Pacific time. That is a long time for voters there who are voting on Election Day to take in what's happening on the East Coast.
True.
And then again, New Mexico becomes a possibility too. It's very unlikely. Of all the maybe possibilities, it's the least likely in my opinion. But that becomes a possibility.
Well, if that happens, then what you're saying very easily could be the case. And, yeah, you could see things definitely roll in Trump's favor in a big way, and I don't disagree with that at all. Now, how does it turn out? As you and I are talking through this, we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. Although, and I know this sounds really cliche-ish, Jim, if it's not a squeaker by Trump, it will be a landslide.
Well, there's one other factor, by the way, and I'll tell you this: if I had to put money on it, and I don't put money on this stuff, obviously, it'd be 280 something. I think Trump wins. But here's the thing: keep in mind the national polls don't determine who's going to win the election. But there's one interesting dynamic to watch for, and that's the fact that Trump nationally is within 1 to 2 points consistently of Kamala Harris. Mm-hmm. He was never this close in either 2020 or 2016
True.
On the national numbers at all. So that's an interesting dynamic to really watch, because that does bleed down, and not just it bleeds down into all the states, obviously, is what we're evaluating. But if that dynamic is in place, that also may be very positive for him. But this is, he may do really well in the Electoral College, but a lot of these states are still going to be very close, probably. And then you get into what's going to happen if we're waiting for vote tallies to be done for days. And so we got an interesting.
And really quick, what's your thoughts? I had an interview
here.
with a young lady a few minutes ago where she predicts we won't know for a few days afterwards. I'm not so sure. If things go like what you just said a moment ago, I think things will be known much sooner than several days after.
I think what may end up, the best case scenario is that some of these states that we would typically be worried because the vote tally wasn't already in, it may be superfluous because of Trump already having won the Electoral College. That's one possible scenario. But we definitely, like if both Arizona and Pennsylvania are, and there were officials down in Arizona saying it could take 10 to 13 days, which is crazy in my mind. But if those two states, for example, were waiting for the votes on, we may be really on the edge of our chairs for a whole week. But if other things take place to make them less relevant, then, we're still going to be waiting for them to come and see how big the victory is.
Right.
It would happen. Nonetheless, it's still possible Kamala Harris is going to win this thing. So, everyone's got to get out to vote.
I agree.
Everyone
Absolutely.
needs to do what they need to do.
Absolutely, Jim. All right. Appreciate you very much, Jim. How do folks find you?
They need to go to theconservativecaucus.org and then go in to sign up on the top right. Join us, and you can learn how to get involved in your local community. And, of course, we have a lot of great information to teach you how to work in grassroots politics.
Awesome. All right. Appreciate you very much, Jim. Have a great evening, sir, and we'll talk again after the election.
Thanks, John. Talk soon.